Collective YA. How are we doing tonight, family? Are we doing well? It's great to see you. And real quick, as we're getting into tonight, I just want to really fast just honor Jess, who was just up here leading worship. So if we could, let's just get up for Jess. He's backstage. Just let him know how much you love him, how thankful we are for him. We love you, Jess. He serves faithfully each week. We love you, Jess. Well, hey, welcome to Collective YA. Jumping in tonight, we're going to go deep fast, y'all. I'm going to start tonight by just being real honest with you. Can I be honest with you? Is that okay with you? Yeah? I got to be honest with you. Lately, I've been in kind of a fad. I've been in kind of this time of my life that I've been really invested in a certain type of literature, and you can't make fun of me when I tell you what it is. Lately, I've been reading a ton of William Shakespeare. I can't tell you why. Maybe I need to go to the hospital and get my brain checked, because last time I checked, reading William Shakespeare was like for high school. They'd make you read it, and it was really strange. It was a lot of thee and thou and art. But I don't know what's going on with me. Maybe I'm getting old. I don't understand. And maybe I have a desire to be an actor one day. Am I too old for that? I don't know. But I've been loving reading Shakespeare. Does anybody remember reading Shakespeare in high school? Okay, let's be real with each other some more. Shakespeare's weird. And the first Shakespeare they had us read was Romeo and Juliet. Can we just be honest with each other? Romeo and Juliet is the most backwards, insane story of all time. It's about two 13-year-olds who hook up and then commit suicide together. It could be an HBO Max TV show, okay? It is insane, Romeo and Juliet. And they made us read that. They put us through that trauma of reading Romeo and Juliet. I think Romeo and Juliet's the worst Shakespeare, just my hot take, sorry thespians. But one Shakespeare play I love above all else is a little play by the name of Hamlet. I love Hamlet. It's one of my favorite Shakespeare plays. If you're not aware of Hamlet, there's a famous line that comes from Hamlet. It's to be, and can you finish it? Or not to be or not to be. And you may not have the full monologue in this play that this character Hamlet gives. So let me read it to you. This is what he says in the play. He says, to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep, no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks. Some of you are like, I'm going to sleep. I feel like I'm in 9th grade English class. I'm getting somewhere with this, okay? Just trust me. If I've been around any amount of time, I've understood that this point in time in this play of Hamlet, he's talking about, is it better to live through life and suffer or to end your life? And if I've spent any amount of time, if I've learned anything from doing young adult ministry, from being around youth ministry, I would say that most individuals, young adults, 18 to 25, high school, aren't necessarily, is it better to suffer than to die, but is it better to die than to be single? I find that for many young people, it's quite a great struggle to traverse through this wicked singleness. It's a struggle. And so to update it to 21st century times, I did a little rendition of Hamlet's monologue to kind of suit the 21st century dating world. Are you ready for it? Yeah? To date or not to date? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the fields to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous friend zoning, or to take arms against a sea of Tinder swiping, and by opposing end up catfished by a thirst trap, to die, to stay single, no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks of being left on red. I will say, yeah, you can snap for that. In all seriousness, if I've spent any time being a young adult pastor, walking through ministry, one of the greatest struggles that many of us face is this idea and this great question of, what does it mean to date? What does it mean to be single? And if you'll let me tonight, I want to show you and walk you through boundaries of defining dating as a follower of Jesus. We've been going through this series, Out of Bounds, talking about boundaries in different areas and realms of life. And I found it only appropriate that to talk about dating is essential, because if we don't talk about it here, we're going to understand it out there, that the world is going to make up our mindset and our perspective of what it means to date, what it means to be romantically involved with other people. And I have to be honest with you, dating is elevated and idolized to such a great degree in secular culture that it's hard to get away from. Hookup culture's everywhere. Every single movie, every single Nicholas Sparks novel, Disney princesses, Taylor Swift songs, dating is everywhere. It is the god of our age, among many other things. And I wish I could say that it stopped in secular culture. I wish I could stand up here as a young pastor with a mic in his hand and say, that's the world's issue. We got to lock down as Christians. The church is on point when it comes to this. But I have to be real with you. The church, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I would say we haven't done a great job of not idolizing dating and marriage in Christian culture. I would say that many single individuals, many unmarried people feel almost subhuman compared to those who are married, compared to their friends who have dated and hooked up and shacked up and gone away and been married. And it's almost like we hear this language of better half. We hear this language that we're told that we're not complete until we find a person. And so when you're single and you're going through life and you're in your 20s and all your friends are dating and getting married and you're still single, and then you're in your 30s and you're dating and all your friends are getting married, and then you try to date but it doesn't work out, you feel almost broken, you feel hopeless, and it's perpetuated. And I can say this from personal experience. I haven't been single in a long time, but I even remember being 17 and walking around church. And at the time of my now wife, who I was dating at the time, my girlfriend, as some would say, I remember people I never talked to, people who did not care about me. I just got to level with you guys. People who never took interest in my life. They heard about me dating, the little relational status on my Instagram changed, and all of a sudden, the next day, everyone's coming up to me. So, when's the wedding? I'm like, do you think she's the one? Is she? I was like, what is your name again? I don't even, in your breath, why are you talking so close to me? Your breath smells so bad. And people would do this, and it would subconsciously communicate to me, oh, I'm not interesting until I'm with somebody else. And so I want to communicate specifically to those of us in this space tonight. Maybe for you, dating is just out of the question. For you, you are not romantically attracted to anybody. For you, within the Christian sphere of dating, it is not biblical for you to date to who you are attracted to. For you, this is impossible for you. Dating is out of the question for you. I want to even speak to those of you who are single in this space. I want to speak to those of you who have watched your friends get married and you feel like you're aging out. You feel like, I don't know how much time I have left. I don't know if people will still like me. Am I attractive? Is something wrong with me? I want to communicate to you to something tonight. Who you are as an individual is enough. Who you are as an individual is enough for God to love. Who you are as an individual is enough for God to use. That you don't need to wait around to be dating or in a relationship or some kind of different status to be used by God or loved by Him or valued as a human being. I want to impart that to you. And I think in the book, Breaking the Marriage Idol, the author summarizes how it feels to be single a lot of time in church culture well. He summarizes it as this in his introduction. I put it on a little piece of paper. Rather than a vocation in its own right, singleness is approached as a kind of calling and incubation, a perpetual purgatory for those poor souls who have not yet found their better halves. Marriage is touted as the ideal relational paradigm. Anyone who doesn't fit neatly within this framework is not only socially inept, but worse, they are not quite human. And so I begin with this, and I'm really driving home on this pretty specifically, because I find that when you get somebody like me standing up on stage talking to somebody like you, we begin to put each other in boxes, don't we? You say, you don't understand my situation, you don't understand my circumstance, and I may just come ignorantly stepping in, talking about dating, and you may feel like I am just simply appropriating my experience of dating onto you. And too often I've heard sermons talked about biblical dating. And really what it is a young pastor who got married is really talking about what they did in dating, how successful they were, and how you should do it too. My friends, that is not my intention tonight. The reality is that dating is not biblical. I'm here to say that. Dating is not biblical. Dating is a very new concept, like pretty much 20th century concept. Dating in biblical times was more like if your parents and the parents of your future spouse liked each other enough, and if they could trade enough money with one another, and it was financially successful to pair you two up, you were married, most likely at 14, 15, 13. And the goal for your life was to build a little casita onto your parents' house. Anyone want to live with your parents for the rest of your life? I don't think so. You build a casita onto your little parents' house, and then you make as many babies as possible until you die when you're 50, because that was the age expectancy. Pretty much that was dating back in the day. It was like, hey, I could trade you 50 goats, you could trade me 50 barleys of wheat. That's it, we're hooked up. Nowadays, it's complicated. You got talking. I don't even know who came up with that phrase. Then you got kind of dating. And then you got to define what are we, the what are we conversation, right? And then you're like, okay, do we get married? Do you want to stay here? I don't know. What am I doing with my life? Do we stay together? How do I know if I want to get married to this person we met like 10 minutes ago? But all these pastors and all these Christians are saying you have to date to get married. It gets kind of complicated. If we were to go to ancient Hebrew and explain dating, they would probably laugh at us. Dating is so complex and confusing, and it's not biblical. So my goal tonight is not to give you a theology of dating. My goal tonight is to impart to you pastoral wisdom and biblical wisdom as to how to lead a life well, and it could pertain to the dating realm. Because here's the reality. When it comes to God, when it comes to following Jesus, we often believe and tell ourselves a lie. God only cares about holy, sanctified things, nothing else. That all God cares about is communion. All God cares about is 4 songs of worship and a bumper video. All God cares about is a 35-minute sermon with 7 points. God cares about everything. Did you know that? C.S. Lewis even said this, that God is the great hedonist in the sense that he provided us joys and luxuries in life to be a part of. I think of Adam and Eve in the garden. He provided this for them to take part in. That God wants to be our co-laborer, that we want to work alongside him to build a beautiful reality on this side of heaven. It's not everything. It's not perfect. It's not permanent. But for the time being, there's some joy to be had on this side of life. And so to go about life, just whipping yourself in the back for every time you sin, to just lock yourself in a small closet and say, God hates me. I don't want to enjoy anything in life. He doesn't want me to find any purpose or value, is not biblical. God wants you to find joy, and he cares about the way you go about your life. God cares about the way you date. God cares about the way you have friends. God cares about the way you treat people. God cares about what you do with your life. God cares about your career. God cares about your job. And so I want to read to you from a text tonight that is renowned for being just chock full of wisdom, chock full of going about daily life in a way that's wise, how to do well in God's world. So if you got a Bible, turn with me to Proverbs 15, chapter 15, verse 11. And if you're taking notes, I want to title tonight's talk this. You don't have to stay heartbroken. You don't have to stay heartbroken. As you turn to Proverbs, and if you're new to Scripture, let me explain the book of Proverbs to you. So there's 3 sets of this thing in the Bible called wisdom literature. There's Proverbs, there's Ecclesiastes, and there's Job. Think of Proverbs as somebody imparting wisdom to you as to how to lead a life well in God's world. It's not necessarily law. So you see law in the Old Testament, like Leviticus, Deuteronomy, some parts of Exodus. Numbers is different. But we see law of what you have to do and get a specific result. Where Proverbs is more so about probability. Because there's certain points in Proverbs where it recommends this is the way to lead a life, and this will produce this. Like in a certain section of Proverbs, it says, lead a child up in the ways of the Lord, and they will follow him all the days of their life. But there's times, due to brokenness of humanity, you could lead a child in the ways of the Lord, but they could go astray due to free will. The book of Proverbs is more so wisdom imparted. Wisdom imparted from God to us to show us that you don't have to go through a lot of terrible, harsh, difficult, painful experiences to receive wisdom. That you can learn from this book and understand deeper the heart of God for your life. And so wisdom, even in of itself, is different in Hebrew culture, different in the book of Proverbs and context than we think of wisdom. I think we think somebody who's wise, somebody who is very intellectual, somebody like a philosopher, somebody like a professor, somebody like maybe your grandparents, somebody who could sit down with you and just impart very smart, intellectual, just wise sayings to you. And that's wise, that's wisdom. But that's not wisdom like Hebrew wisdom. See, Hebrew wisdom was a whole other realm of reality. At the time of the Jews in this ancient culture, wisdom was less of what you know and more so what you do with what you know. Wisdom was more so imparted to those, and God attributes in Exodus 31, that those who are wise are craftsmen, artists, carpenters, people who make things. So think of wisdom less as I know a lot of things and I'm very balanced and I wake up at 6 a.m. and I do intermittent fasting. Have you heard of this? Yes, intermittent fasting. You don't eat for 12 hours. That's great. That's not wisdom in what we're talking about. Wisdom in Hebrew culture and context is taking what you know and making something beautiful out of it, producing a beautiful life out of the wisdom you've been given. The Hebrew word for this is chokmah. You got to really guttural it in, you know what I'm saying? Could you say that? Chokmah? Yeah, there you go. It's good. And it's that kind of wisdom that we're going to be reading about. So let's begin, verse 11. It starts with this. Even death and destruction hold no secrets from the Lord. How much more does he know the human heart? Mockers have to be corrected, so they stay away from the wise. A glad heart makes a happy face. A broken heart crushes the spirit. A wise person is hungry for knowledge, while a fool feeds on trash. So when speaking on the topic of dating, with the context of this title, you don't have to be heartbroken. And the premise of me saying this, that you don't have to be heartbroken, is I find that when it comes to the world of dating, we do a lot of things unnecessarily that hurt us. We do a lot of things sinfully, and sin in grand scheme isn't just God saying, no, don't have fun, I don't want you to do that because I hate you. Sin is things that hurt us and in turn hurts God. Or we may just go about our life causing mishaps, hurting ourselves. And I find in the world of dating and relationships, we do this often. And I first want to begin with the sentence, you don't have to be heartbroken, but you will stay heartbroken by not being honest with yourself. By not being honest with yourself. I found as humans, we're really, really good at guessing everybody's intentions, wouldn't you say? We kind of walk away from a conversation, maybe going to bed at night, brushing our teeth, just looping back the day. You ever do this? Then you think back, when someone insulted you, and then you come back with a comeback, you're in the mirror, you're yeah, that's right, your mom, this, yeah, I'm so witty. Yeah, I know how to respond. I'm critical. Then you think back on the situation, I could have never said that. I find a lot of the time we're always replaying in our mind what everybody meant by everything. You ever realize this? Somebody looks at you a certain way. Maybe you're checking out the grocery store, you're on campus, you're at work, and all of a sudden you say, what did I do to them? It must have been when I didn't close the door when I walked in, and now they're looking at me weird, and now they're talking to my coworker, they're gossiping about me. This is what they're doing. They're gossiping about me at work. Oh my gosh. And then later that day, you go to see your boss talking to them oh my gosh, I'm getting fired. I have to go look for a new job. First, I didn't open the door for them, and they just walked right past me, and then they give me that weird look, and they talk to my coworker, and now my coworker is talking to my boss, and now my boss is going to fire me, and now I have to go look for jobs, and I didn't really get a degree I really like, so what should I do? I heard Smith's is hiring. I don't really want to work at Smith's. And then we begin to internalize everything, don't we? We're really good at guessing other people's intentions, aren't we? See, the reality is this, my friends, you can never know anybody's intentions. You really can't. You never know what people intend to do. No matter how close you are to somebody, no matter how near you are to them, no matter if they've been your best friend for 15 years, you can never know their intentions. Only God knows that. Only they know that. But you know what you can know is their behavior. See, you could guess, hey, if I meet your mom, okay, hypothetical scenario, say, Nick probably doesn't like my mom. He didn't really shake her hand super well. She's more of a side hug kind of gal, and he probably doesn't like my mom. You couldn't really guess that. But if I walked up to you and your mom, and I just slapped your mom across the face, you could probably take an educated guess and really dig deep and realize, I don't think Nick likes my mom. We can take behavior and use it to base upon somebody's character, but we can't take intention. But I find that we often like playing the game of guessing people's intentions, but I want to ask you the question, when's the last time you asked yourself what your intentions are? When's the last time you were honest with yourself, specifically in the realm of dating, about getting into a relationship, finding interest in somebody, and before taking the next step, you really sat down and you ran a test on yourself of really asking yourselves the hard questions of, why am I getting into this? I can tell you that there's a lot of reasons to start dating. There's a lot of reasons today to take romantic interest in somebody else. Not all of those are good reasons, though. I think a lot of the time, many of us can begin dating because we feel lonely. We've bought into the lie from Satan, truly, from secular culture, that if you're alone, you're lonely. That you need somebody else to complete you. That you need another person to come alongside you to make life better. Maybe you've bought into that lie of loneliness. Maybe you're dating for the sake of sex. Maybe you're dating because you know you have this inner passion and desire, and you don't know how to appropriate it within God's structure well. So you look for a quick way out. Maybe a Tinder hookup, maybe just hooking and shacking up with your boyfriend or girlfriend, and that's your intention for the relationship. And maybe for some of us, if we're being really real, we're just kind of bored. We live in Albuquerque. Unless you're like a rock climber, there's not much to do. So we think, okay, I don't really know what to do. It's Friday night. On all my friends' stories, they're all going out. They all have significant others. It seems really fun. They have like all these matching outfits. I think dating, I'm bored. That's the thing to do. That's the next step for me. I think we also do this. We buy into the lie of next steps. You know what I'm saying? We say, okay, I graduated high school. Now I have to go to college. And now I have to hate my degree and go there for 4 years. Okay, I went there for 4 years. Now I have to get a job in like an HR firm and hate my life. And now I have to date somebody. And then when I date them, I have to get married to them. And then when I get married to them, I have to have 5 kids. And then I have 5 kids. And then I live in Rio Rancho. Then I live in Rio Rancho. I get a 401k and then I die. Oh, no, you get an RV and then you die. That's what we think in life. We mimic what other people do, copying God's plan and God's will for their life onto our own schematics. My friend, not all of us, God's will is not for you to date. For many of us, that is not God's will for your life. But I find that we believe the lie that we have to, that is necessary for us to thrive as a human. Are you honest with yourself? You don't have to stay heartbroken, but you will by not accepting trusted advice. Let's read in verse 12. Mockers hate to be corrected, so they stay away from the wise. Mockers hate to be corrected, so they stay away from the wise. How many of you have been in this situation? You got a friend, okay? They're going through it. They just text you, girl, my guy, my boyfriend, things aren't too good right now. Can you talk? Can you get coffee? You say, yeah. Let's get coffee, girl. Let's go. Let's talk. Let's chat. Let's vent. You tell me what's going on. So you get ice cream macchiatos squared. You pay because you're just such a good friend. You sit down, sipping on your caramel macchiatos with your wide-brimmed hats, and you say, okay, girl, tell me what's going on. Say, girl, oh my gosh, my boyfriend, he did whatever. Now we're through. I'm done with him. I'm done. I am so over that relationship. I am new me. 2022. I told myself, new me, new year. You say, girl, that is good. That is good. Let me. And you just think in the back of your mind, oh my goodness, what do I even say right now? I am not a counselor. I don't know. I was signing up for a counseling session, but what do I say? So you just kind of think. You just give him some advice. You say, yeah. So just don't keep dating the boy who keeps running off on you with other girls. And it's like, okay, that's good advice. So she's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to tell him. A month comes by. A month goes by. She texts you, girl, you will not believe what he did to me. And you ask, you're still together? You sit down. You're not paying this time for the ice cream macchiatos. That was $9 of ice cream macchiatos. You say, you pay. Yeah, your issues, you pay. You get your ice cream macchiatos, you sit down. They tell you the same thing, beat by beat. It's like, do you read Shakespeare? Do you recite plays? Because I feel like you're an actor. This is like literally the same thing as last month. It's pretty frustrating when friends don't listen to your advice, isn't it? It's pretty frustrating when you sit down with somebody, they pour out their heart to you. You say, yes. And then they say, do you have any advice for me? You say, I'm so glad you asked. I was going to talk anyway. Here's my advice. And then they don't do it. And then they meet up with you again and again and again. It's exhausting. It's physically debilitating to go through that. See, if you want to stay heartbroken, if you want to be repeating the same cycles over and over of toxic relationships, not just in dating, but in just life in general, Don't get trusted advice. Just go through it solo. Just go through it with no trusted wisdom, no trusted friends to have your back to talk you through it. I think one of the most foolish things we can do as followers of Jesus is think we can do this show solo. I keep seeing all these things on Instagram talking about I can be saved and not go to church, and that's true. As the same fact is that I can be married but never go home. My marriage isn't going to be too good if I never go home. I can tell you that right now. Your relationship to Jesus isn't going to be too healthy if you never do it in community. Your relationship to Jesus is never going to thrive if you never spend time in relationship to people who love him as well, keeping you balanced. And the same is true for a dating relationship. This word, verse 12, it says, mockers hate to be corrected. A better word for that is people who scorn, people who gossip, people who are cynical. See, when you go through life by yourself, never getting outside input from wise people, good, trusted friends, you become cynical. You get stuck with your own thoughts. You get stuck with your own perspective. Then you begin internalizing, going back to the coworker situation. You begin looking at everybody through this lens that you're better than them, that you know more, that you're just, you got it figured out, that you're okay on your own, that people are weak, you got it, you're strong. My friends, you are not too strong to ever ask for help. You're not too strong to ever ask for advice. So here's my recommendation. This is an opinion, okay? Big opinion. I think before people step into dating relationships, as they're crossing that bridge, you need to get with 2 or 3 people in your life who are trusted, okay? I'm not saying, like, go air your dirty laundry outside like your friend with ice cream macchiato. Don't be posting on your story about your relationship issues, okay? But you need to get trusted people in your life who you can be honest and real with, who you can go and say, hey, I'm interested in this person. I kind of want to date them. I kind of want to marry them. I don't know. Could you kind of just tell me your thoughts? And if they're a trusted friend who loves Jesus and they're saying, hey, their character's off. I've been seeing some things. I've been seeing them talk to some people. It just seems kind of strange. Take that advice. And at the end of the day, you have to make your own decisions. You're your own human. You waited 18 years to do so, right? Yeah, at the end of the day, you have to make your own choices, but wise counsel is so life-giving. You don't have to stay heartbroken. But you will by not weighing the results of your actions. I think of that vine of that little kid. If you know, you know. But I think very often we tend to forget. If you're under the age of 25, did you know this? I'm not a scientist or neurologist by any stretch of anyone's imagination. That's kind of a pun. But the human brain is not done growing, the prefrontal cortex specifically, until you're 25 years old, okay? It doesn't take like a rocket scientist to understand that. You just Google it. If I found this out earlier in life, I would have been like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense as to why I make the stupid decisions I do. You ever be in that situation? You're doing something, you're going about a life, you keep making choice after choice after choice, and then you kind of end up one day just sitting in your living room like, how did I end up here? And you don't realize, oh, my brain's not fully developed. I don't really understand, like, consequences yet. The prefrontal cortex, through some research, is specifically allowed and specifically performs these tasks: managing attention, decision-making, and impulses. So, like, the 3 most important things ever to, like, lead a life well, I guess. I find that a lot of the time, if you take this idea that if you're below the age of 25, and you're making decision after decision, not really thinking through the consequences, and then you compound that with just this culture and society we're in, so already that's hard, and then you top that with being young in America, which is hard, okay? Some of y'all, like, I'm trying to buy a house, interest rates are like 5%. Then you compound that with just being young, you can feel frustrated and confused and so upset at everything. But I want to challenge you to think through and just ask yourself the question, will I regret this action, this choice in the morning? Will the choice I am making in this relationship, in this moment in time romantically, will this choice fill me with shame and regret 8 a.m. tomorrow morning? Easy way to ask yourself that question. See, in verse 13, it tells us this: a glad heart makes a happy face, and a broken heart crushes the spirit. Anyone got a crushed spirit in here tonight? I think for many of us, we feel crushed through the brokenness we've experienced. And here's the reality about brokenness and pain and suffering. If you want to identify biblically 3 kinds of suffering, are you ready? 3 J's. Job, Jonah, Joseph. Job, Jonah, Joseph, okay? Job, if you read the story, is about suffering inflicted on a man by God allowing it to make him better. That God allows suffering in your life and mine to make us better, to sharpen us. And then there's the story of Joseph. It's another kind of suffering. It's suffering inflicted on you on behalf of other people that God allows, but it's on behalf specifically from other people's actions towards you. You had no control. You didn't do anything wrong. This is a big deal as you get older, as you experience trauma and abuse. You begin to ask yourself the question of, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? But often when we go through life, we experience suffering and trauma on behalf of other people. And here's the third suffering you experience, Jonah. If you read the story of Jonah, he literally is disobedient, and God has to reprove him to show him the weight of his actions, the consequence to his actions. See, God allows us to experience heartbreak and suffering to develop us. All 3 of those characters got developed through Scripture. All were developed, and God allows these things to develop us. But I find that a lot of the time, we put ourselves through so much unnecessary heartbreak. We put ourselves through so much unnecessary crushing that God hurts to see us in pain. Then we begin to think that there's no other way. This is how I am. This is how I'm wired. This is how it has to be. But we end up emptier and emptier and emptier. And I'm not saying weighing the consequences of your actions will fix that for you. It's deep-rooted. But I want to begin to ask you that question. Have you thought about how your actions are impacting people? Here's one question you can ask as well. How is the actions, the way I'm acting in this relationship, dating relationship, going to impact the person I'm with? You ever think about that? You ever think about that you're with another person? It's not marriage. Oh, let me tell you. Dating is not marriage. Dating, you get close in proximity. You don't see everything. Marriage is like, here I am, take it or leave it, baby. Dating, you're still bringing someone into your mess, though, aren't you? If it's a good relationship, if it's something that's healthy, you're bringing somebody into your proximity just close enough to taste the mess that you're in. I want to ask you, is the mess you're in currently worth trudging somebody else through? It's just something to ask yourself. Again, I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just helping you on how to think through these things. Are we weighing the consequences of our actions and how they're impacting others? I think it was really funny when Olivia Rodrigo dropped her album, and then all the guys were like, what about the man side? What about the man side of the situation? And then the guy dropped his album. And it's so funny because it's really self-centered a lot of the time in a relationship, isn't it? How they hurt me and what they did. And I'm not discounting the pain that we've been through, but a lot of time it's easy to focus on others. How about we think less about ourselves and more about others and they having a future? Did you ever have the thought or the concept that maybe the person you're with may be somebody else's wife someday? That the person you're with may be somebody else's husband one day? Changes a lot. You don't have to stay heartbroken, but you will by not having a vision for your life. By not having a vision for your life. I joked about it in the beginning, but in Christian culture, it's kind of like you have to be a toddler and know you want to marry somebody to know it's going to work in dating. And I'm not asking you, when asking to have a vision for your life, to be somebody who has it all mapped out. I'm not asking you to walk into a room and be like, hey, that's my wife right there. We locked eyes. I had a dream about her last night. It was prophecy. There was wheat in the dream. It's biblical, okay? I'm not telling you to have a vision and have it all figured out, okay? Not like Dr. Strange mode. But I'm asking you, who do you want to be? Simple question. Who do you want to be? Each passing moment, you and I are changing internally and externally. And scientifically, by the age of 25, your body it begins degrading, entropy, right? We're changing internally on a biochemical level, but we're also changing on a spiritual level, moment by moment. And we're growing towards or away from something continually. And on a spiritual, emotional, internal level, what are you growing towards? And you could accompany that with that question, what do you want to be? What do you want to be like? Because here's the reality. You can get into a relationship, 2 years in, realize, oh, my goal for my life is to go travel for 20 years and go see the globe and not have a family, and the person I'm dating wants kids. I don't know why it didn't work out. It's like there's kind of different goals here. There's kind of different visions. Like if you don't want to ever be married, you probably shouldn't start dating. Just got to be real with you. You have to have some sort of idea of what you want to be like, of what you want to grow to. And so in closing, I want to read this verse to you, because I don't want to just end the sermon, end the night on the note of just simply, here's how to date, here's what you need to know, this, that, behavioral adjustment. But we're all growing towards something. And this is God's heart for you. I want to read it to you. It's going to be Matthew 11:28-30. It's very easy to be shaped and molded by everything apart from Jesus, isn't it? Let's just be real with one another. It's easy to be shaped and molded by our social media feed. It's easy to be shaped and molded by people we want to be like in culture. It's easy to be shaped and molded even by our parents and their expectations on us. It's really easy to be shaped and molded by everyone else's expectations apart from Christ. Dating or not dating, single, whatever, here's Jesus' intention for your life. He said this, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls." You will find rest for your souls. "For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light." This is Jesus' vision for you, my friend. Jesus' vision for your life is to follow him in a way that is light, to follow him in a way that produces life, that is life-giving to you. There's many things that we experience and go through and are molded by that don't produce living a life less burdensome. Shame is very burdensome. Sexual brokenness is very burdensome. Living by the expectations of culture is burdensome. And I find that as a society, we're kind of figuring that out. There's been a breakdown. We're realizing this doesn't work. So I want to invite you tonight, apart from dating, because that's important. It's important how you lead and live your life. But have you taken Jesus' yoke upon you? Have you invited him into your life, into your circumstances, to follow his rhythms and to rest in him? It's exhausting to do anything else. You can't do it for very long. So let me pray for you. We're going to have Jess come back out, that beautiful man. And we're going to jump back into worship. I just want to leave you with that question. What are you becoming like? And do you like the thing you're becoming? Father, thank us for your word. Not thank us, thank you. Thank you for your word. We're so grateful to you for just leaving us wisdom, leaving us the ability to just see your heart. And God, I pray over my friends in this space tonight who are heartbroken. I pray over my friends in this space tonight who feel crushed. I pray over my friends in this space tonight who are tired. They're tired of living out the expectations. Maybe a boyfriend put on them, girlfriend, family, culture, whatever it may be. But expectations they just can't live up to anymore. Father, help us to rest in you. And I pray for my friends in this space tonight who have not accepted you, who have really denied you, who maybe believe you're a sham or believe that you're a fairy tale. But maybe for the first time their souls are being awakened to your reality. Help us to step out of the exhausting cycles of sin and brokenness that we have only known. Help us to step into your love because you extend it freely. We don't have to prove ourselves or earn it. You give it to us. All we have to do is accept it. So I pray for those in this space who need that they may just reach out and just accept it. That they may stop fighting, stop running, just turn to you. Pray this in your name. Amen.